Our first workshop for the afternoon will explore enabling access and career pathways, something we spoke about this morning, and some of the questions were coming up on YouTube. So enabling access and career pathways to the creative industries. Hosting this workshop is Darren Kerr from Solent University. Darren is an associate professor and head of film and TV, head of the Film and TV School here at Solent University. Darren has also been part of the City of Culture 2025 bid process and leads several courses that align to the creative sector. He'll also be joined by James Gale from Shogun, just on the end there. Give us a wave, James. Daniel Bernstein, a very good friend and an excellent colleague from Emergency Exit Arts, who will be joining us online. Zoe Golding from Zoe Logic Dance Theatre, and Dr. Nasser Sibai from Microlink PC. Thank you. Thank you very much. Darren, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ajay. And a huge thank you to those who've organised this, and especially the invitation I got to chair this and to host this panel on enabling access and career pathways. As Ajay says, I'm Associate Professor, Head of the Film and Television School, and also chair of the fantastic City Eye film education charity in the city. I was really taken by something that actually Louise from Artswork said in the last panel about employability and how important employability is. And it's something that universities are absolutely steeped in. They're absolutely the bread and butter of what universities should be doing, alongside everything else, is ensuring that they produce employable graduates. But I'm not sure if employability is enough, because employability will equip students with the skills, but does it help them to access the pathways and the careers and the things that they want, which seem to be quite difficult. So this is going to be part and parcel of what I want to kind of tease out in this with our amazing panelists here. And we've got Daniel, of course. Daniel's head behind us there online, which is wonderful. Just to pull out a few questions, I was really encouraged by the keynotes, but I also want to see if we can try and put a bit of flesh on the bones of some of those comments and ideas, and especially what appears to be a real emerging theme about aspiration. You know, one of the key imperatives behind the City of Culture bid is about legacy, and it is about the future. And our job is to make sure we put the groundwork in place to make sure that future is delivered, because, you know, we're not getting any younger. It might not be our future, for some of us at least, but certainly for the younger generations that we keep hearing about as well. So I'm going to pass over now and have our panelists introduce themselves and say a little bit about what they do and what their take really is on this idea of enabling access and also kind of career pathways. So I'm going to hand over to Zoe first.
Hi everyone, lovely to be here. So I'm Zoe Golding, I'm Artistic Director of Zoe Logic Dance Theatre. I have been working in that field since I was 3. The reason I have this career path is because it chose me, I think. It was something that kept me focused, kept me driven. Zoe Logic is designed to challenge perceptions of dance, who it's for, where and how it's shown. So right from dot, I'm not very good with the rules. I like to see as an artist how we can be braver and bolder. And over the last 22 years of working with predominantly men in dance and challenging perceptions of what that is, I've gone on an amazing adventure, a learned adventure. Why was I interested in a creative career? As I said, it kind of found me, and it was about lived experience of being a participant. And it was about the captivation that the cultural sector and the arts had just to keep me engaged. By about 16, I'd realised that I really liked making work, not dancing in it, because I got to bring my imagination to life. And there's no more funner thing in the world to do, really, than that. But then to do that with a team alongside you. So dance is an art form that needs human bodies. It needs people. It comes with complexities. That's its tool. So as I kind of started at the age of 19, I set up Fuzzy Logic, which is the youth company that's now one of the leading male youth companies in the UK. And I just did it. It's proper X Factory, actually, when you say it now. X Factor didn't exist then. But we just rocked up on a Tuesday, and me and these 4 guys just started making dances. And there was not a lot of male dance happening, especially in the South Coast. So we started touring and taking it out. So that brings me to the 2 things that are really important about, I think, career pathways in the culture sector is about visibility and being relative. We obviously challenge perceptions. Try and imagine someone, if I just asked here, like, do you want to come dance? You'd be like, absolutely not. And people literally back up. Do you see what happened? Exactly. I'm used to this. It's absolutely fine because it is. Dance has lots of barriers before we even, get to what the benefits are of it. So there's no better way than to show people. So we now take work to the communities, to our audiences, to people that we wish to engage with, to open access that you might like it. We don't judge whether you do or don't. That's not for us to say. And we don't decide that because you haven't had it, you are of lesser a human. We literally just say, here it is, and it might work for you. I came into it a very unconventional route. So I turned down Junior Royal Ballet because I found disco dancing with sparkles and I could run around and do what I want. You'll see the theme. I turned down a degree at one of the top schools in London because I found a producing role. I was offered an assistant role, making tea in a company that was creating events. So I thought, okay, producing might be for me. I ended up touring the world for 13 years, running events with up to 72,000 young people and watching everything that I did or everything that our team delivered, watching these sparks of like, oh, this could be for me. Oh, I could have a career in that. So I'm just fueled by making the opportunities happen. And yeah, I don't have a degree. I have no one bit of paper that says I should do any of these things. I just bravely keep doing them, and I've epically failed and I've epically succeeded along the way. I was actually with some students at university on Friday, and they said, oh, how do I start? I'm like, guys, you've got space. You've got loads of people that like dancing. Just get making. So for me now, it's about reducing barriers to access. What does that mean? And they might be really unconventional. They might not be, it's not just about paying for someone or subsidy. It's about childcare. It's about actually, are you interested in, I know we even have a chat about food. Are you interested in food and then looking at the cultural stories behind that? Are you interested in film? How does that relate to movement? So for us, it's not always direct. There's a really interesting process that we've gone through with our audiences, and we're trying to increase male attendance in our audiences. And one of our advisory boards was just amazing. They said, well, if you tell me what pubs close and what burger they kind of do, and so I can do it as date night, and that's the start. So it's not always just straight line, and I think that's what access is. That's what enabling access is about, is thinking not just I've got something for you. Which now is about co-creation. So we work in a lot of communities in Southampton. We have a project called We Are Holyrood. I have to say it like that because it's got a lot of weight behind it with young people like, Holyrood! And they own it. They have their own movement mantra that they teach the entire community. And we've been working with them for 4 years to empower aspirations and raise what it means to a can-do attitude instead of I can't, which is great. We're now partnering with various businesses who are now opening up potential training places in their workplaces and opening their doors to their factories or their workplaces and taking quite unlikely young people into their world. So, yeah, removing the barriers. I think because I volunteered a lot and I just put myself in places and I just asked for help. I think that's one of the biggest things we don't do enough of. It enabled me to go into some phenomenal environments as I grew up alongside artists, just because I asked, do you mind if I watch or do you mind if I listen? And I think, again, letting people know that it's okay to say, I don't really know, but can I? So, yeah, Zoe Logic, we've opened up the doors. You can learn about anything. I'm a financier. My business plan is rigid. Some nods. I'm a strategist, I'm a philanthropist, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm an artist, and we empower people to have their voice, really. So as you can see, I'm just fueled by the impact, and that's all I've ever done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go to James.
Thank you so much, Anzo. I love that. The energy was amazing. Hi, my name's James Gale. I run a company called Shogun Social, and the long and short of it is we help businesses post more like creators. Over the pandemic, many things changed. One of those being how we use, act, and interact via social media and content. This event today is kind of a precipice to that already. Just going, look, we are doing live streams now, even from people that traditionally wouldn't have done so, and it's amazing to see how many businesses have that gap and needed to fulfill those type of things, especially navigating the waters specifically through things like TikTok, podcasting, the whole 9 yards. And often social media beforehand, especially before the pandemic, was here, who's the youngest person in the office? Give them a phone. There you go. Let them do it. And it's always put on the whole young people thing, whereas we all use social media in all of our own different ways, and actually we have to think about our audiences and how they want to consume those things. And the holy trinity, I call it, of every time you think of social, how you're supposed to do things is, if it's not educational, inspirational, or entertaining, why would anyone look at it, use it, or interact with it? So you have to, yes, get your strategic goals, but temper it with a constant, always-on, providing, value-based approach. And it's taking that ethos and slotting it into businesses, how it fits in different places. And it didn't initially start that way. I started my career traditionally in marketing. I actually went here to Solent'S Uni, did advertising. I actually used my degree for the field I went into, which is often a weird one. And it was great, but the course taught me from a traditional advertising agency point of view, and that was, if anyone's ever seen Mad Men, exactly that. So slot me into that thinking I'm going to go in, I'm the suit, I've got this, I'm going to wine and dine the clients, I'm going to have a briefcase. That was exactly the way I was going. And then actually I had a very successful third year. I'd ended up doing a unit called what was it? Agency simulation. You pretend to be an agency, you build a whole brand around it, and they match you up and go find a client, go find an agency, and they'll give you a brief. Stuff like that's extremely useful, by the way, and we'll touch on that later. But once I did that, we had a local company called 5x5 who worked with the likes of B&Q and all the rest. They are brilliant, if anyone's ever seen them. And they gave me a client as B&Q. So, they wanted to increase the occupancy of local renters and getting people to buy from B&Q instead of just going to IKEA and buying new stuff, because traditionally you can't rip up your flat if you don't own it. So that was a tough brief, but we went in there, we rehearsed for ages, and actually ended up getting me 2 job offers, one from 5x5 and one from B&Q, which was amazing. But then I went and chose the wrong thing because I was young, and I was like, big money, nice title, fancy company, I'll choose B&Q. And although B&Q is a fantastic company, it was not for me. Client side is very different to how agencies operate and how more freelance creators operate, and that isn't particularly taught at that stage. So it was amazing to get that, but then I had to go and evolve and go to different places. So I went from different agencies to different agencies, went to London and came back again because that commute was horrendous. You have to go and experience all that and work with brands like HSBC, Samsung, EE, all those kind of ones. So really cool brands to work with. But no matter if it was at the big stage or the small and medium-sized business stage, no one really understood social in that way, and that is how I ended up creating Shogun in the first place. And the whole reason I even went into advertising in the first place is because I was good at selling stuff, because I worked at Foot Locker. I was like, I can sell some insoles that no one wants. Yeah. still hold the record, by the way. Go back and ask. I was good at that, but I was also creative. But the thing that held me back was I can't draw niche. I can't do anything. I wanted to be an animator, but I can't draw. So I was like, no matter how much I practiced, I did buy the books and everything. So I was like, I have to find my creative ideas and put it into something different. And I kind of took what at the time was my love of The Apprentice and was business ideas, those are good. Smashed the two together and I thought, I'll choose advertising, because when you're that young, you have absolutely no idea what to do and you just got to try as much as possible. So when I got into that route, that was exactly how I ended up here and building this business. And we're a team of 4 now, but we're hiring for 3 more. So we'll be at least 6 or 7 of us by the end of Q2. So that's really, really cool. Working with likes, Barclays Eagle Labs, Southampton City Council, and the 2025 Bid for Culture team, helping navigate all things TikTok. So it's really, really fascinating to do that. But I wouldn't have gotten through any of those things if it wasn't for work experience. I think out of enabling creative, and creative pathways for careers, I think a lot of students at that age need to really take it into their own hands, as well as companies like us, giving them the access to open the doors, say, yes, you can come in and get that experience. Because a degree alone, unfortunately, is not enough. And it is really hard to admit sometimes, and especially with the amount of money you spend on stuff, you'd be like, God damn it, why is it not enough? But it is super, super crucial to get that experience, because if I had maybe got work experience in client side, I maybe would have made the right choice when I got offered those two different things. And you have to put yourself in the place to gain that opportunity. So, and a lot of the time what holds people back is the fact they don't feel like they have the ability to. I can't reach out to a massive company just like, can I work for you? Yes, you can, because of the glory of social media. Just do it. You have nothing to lose. And it's almost like, although I'm teaching companies to think like creators, you have to reverse engineer and teach students specifically to think like marketers. So there's a term called account-based marketing, where you go for a specific group of people. So there's my ideal 10 targets, and I want those, so I'm going to make specific campaigns for each and every one of those 10. That's advice I give to every student I ever talk to. Find the 10 agencies or companies you want to work for, figure out how you're going to uniquely reach out to them to ask for work experience or job placements, and go, yes, okay, I'm going to send you a golden envelope, which is what I used to do. Well, golden envelopes off of Amazon, cover letter, CV in there, saying your golden ticket has arrived. That is how I used to get attention. I used to follow that digitally. So now I have basically a 2-step marketing campaign just for getting jobs and work experience. So you really need to start thinking like a business owner and a marketer, and treat yourself constantly like a business of one, to make sure you're in the position for when opportunities like stuff like this turns up, you're ready and you are there and you've made the extra effort. Because if a golden ticket turned up on my door, you've got work experience straight away, without question. And people have done some wacky stuff to get less opportunities as well. So it's really interesting. But business journeys are slightly different to career journeys. I found that when we try to get access to funding, if you're a startup, it's very difficult, which no one tells you, because you often have to learn these things on the fly. So even though we could turn over X amount, I could be making millions right now, but as a startup, I haven't done my first books yet because we're so young. We're only a year and 7 months old, so therefore I make no money in the eyes of anyone that lends. So you have to bootstrap it yourself, and it is particularly interesting to go around those routes. So as of now, growing to the size we are and working with clients we haven't invested a single penny. I think I financed a laptop when I first got it, and I'm still paying it off because I'm tight git, even though I could pay it off. So it's stuff like that you just kind of have to bet on yourself, especially when you have a gap. And this is what I love about Southampton, in the fact that there was a massive gap there, because there's no social media agencies or specific social media agencies that had landed here and taken this as their home. There were some really established marketing agencies, but social was there as a perfect, let's solve this issue. And you used to treat places like Southampton to still have a breadth of a creative community, plus there's still the opportunity to grow. That needs to be an absolute target for anyone that could want to join the city or is already in the city. This is like yours for the taking almost, and the success and support around it is often not flagged about. And I'd love to see if we can at some point send over a whole bunch of resources that goes, right, there's this opportunity, and put all of the links from everyone's different organisations in one place. .gov does a pretty good job of that, but I'd love to put it in multiple places as well, and probably put it on social, because going to the .gov site, if you're asking someone who's 16 to 25, navigating that's a tough job. So you've got to put it where they already are. So I love the Solent region for that, because they've supported me so much. The council dumps lots of money into things like the support with Barclays Eagle Labs, for instance. That is an amazing incubator program. You've got Get Set Solent, you've got the stuff that Solent LEP does. It's all there, you just have to find it. The problem is it's just quite hard to find in the initial. But once you've opened up that world, how even stuff will go Southampton, it's just so much there for people. Whether you want to go the entrepreneur route or you want to go in the marketing route, there's support for lots of different ideas, creative and business. So our ambitions for growth is to make sure that Southampton is a key cornerstone in social media content creation, and it could be known as the TikTok capital for all I care. I'd love that, because it's such a unique type of content to go into. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that. That's kind of what we do.
Thank you very much. Okay, I think we should move online now to speak to Daniel.
I was worried you were going to say that. I'm going to make a request, and it might be a big cheer from the crowd that I can't see. Zoe, can you allow me to share screen? Because then, rather than looking at my great big face, you might be able to see some pretty pictures. Would people prefer that? I think you've had enough of my face.
Yes, sure. Okay, so we'll go to our next speaker, Dr. Nasser Sibai.
Hi, good afternoon, and thank you for having me here. Right, my My company operates in Chandlersford. We employ around 100 people here and another 150 people as consultants and contractors across the country. The company was co-founded in 1992, so we are in our 30th year of operating. Our core strapline is really from classrooms to boardrooms. We look after people with disabilities in education and in workplace. And disability is not the classical wheelchair users or someone with guide dogs. It's about people with hidden disabilities, neurodiversity in particular, which we help them to thrive, we help them to fulfill their ambition and achieve in the desired fields they want to operate. Now that started from, again, lived experience. It's a theme that we all seem to share here. From the age of 10, I had a loss of vision in one eye and severe loss in the other. That meant by the age of 16, I could be considered a school dropout. Something changed when I was 16. Circumstances changed. I moved to UK from Iran due to political upheaval there. And I started really from bottom of the ladder, where it was a science versus English subjects. Well, of course, somebody who can't speak English would choose the science, which I wasn't very good at. So it was the less of the two evils. And because I started from very basic, my visual impairment didn't really come into play because I was in a small size classroom and better kind of a teaching methods. And that kind of gave me the confidence. At the age of 28, I got my doctorate in physics, mathematics, and microelectronics, which is really something would never have happened if I had continued on that previous pathway. Well, of course, what made the difference is the support from my family. So that's quite important to what I did after. So I came out of university. I was one of the few people in the country who knew about computers because I designed chips, as well as with my brother had a large computer company. So I used that effort to help disabled students in universities. To date, we have helped, combined between disabled students and people in the workplace, we've helped around 500,000 people. Now that is not just talk to them and inspire them, actually giving practical tools and solutions. And those tools and solutions could be as simple as a piece of software or something more like intervention about somebody who needs a BSL interpreter or somebody who needs a support worker to take him to work. Fundamentally, we reduce or remove barriers for people to succeed. And it's a passion that's shared with every employee we've got. More than 50 or maybe 60% of my workforce have declared disabilities. And I would say we are very good, but the evidence will prove, because there's no other company in the world that does what we do. People send anyone with any condition to us and we'll find a working solution so they can do their job as well as anybody else. So kind of like giving people a level playing field. Now, going back to the theme of employment and skill shortages, well, one of the biggest waste of human talent and human capital has been lack of recognition for neurodiversity. It's now becoming such a big issue. Diversity and inclusion is also a big issue, and access is a very big issue. So let's look at creative industries. If you talk to the top artists, to top international sportsmen, and look at marketing agencies, they all have something, well, most of them have something in common. They all are neurodiverse, either dyslexic, autistic, or... Yet in the school system we have, most of these kids are failed by the education system. By the age of 16, they make wrong choices. Our prisons are filled. 70% of prisoners are on the spectrum. This is a fact. And £18 billion a year is wasted keeping them locked up. And when they come out, they don't get the skills they need because education is not done in the way they would respond to. They come and reoffend and go back. So we have a failed system that could be easily fixed. How is raising that awareness in our education system? Teachers don't know how to deal with a dyslexic or autistic kid until it's too late. They become unruly, then they drop out, and then we have this massive amount of money has been spent keeping them in special schools where it's just managing their behavior rather than trying to educate them and skill them. So my goal in life is actually to get rid of that barrier, that myth about, people on disability are not capable. They are more capable than probably everyone in this room to do certain jobs. Identifying that skill is what we want to be good at. And once we've got that identification of, about, like James, is marketing, advertising, or Zoe, if you talk to your cohorts, you'll find that they too struggled in school. They came out and they just put their brain power into being good at what they are. These are good examples of what we're missing out in our system. University sector is as guilty, because I have been trying to get my own local university, I'm in Southampton, I graduated from. We are, every year we've got hundreds and maybe thousands of kids who are on that neurodiversity graduate. And yes, they get good degrees, but they don't get a job, because the support they get at university using the government schemes like disabled student allowance seem to be very generous, but the trouble is not coaching them, teaching them to be how to be resilient in the workplace. We need to change that. Secondly, we've got kids who are on a neurodiversity range, like autistic ones, high-functioning autistic people. They actually could do the job which is a massive skill shortage of, and will be much bigger, cybersecurity and accessibility. Accessibility is a legal requirement. Every university, every public sector, every private sector has to be accessible because of the Equalities Act and Human Rights Act. But it's much more than that. They have like 20% of the population, and that number is increasing, like the aging population is going up. These are the ones with money. So if your website is not accessible, you're going to lose those pensioners who basically are going to spend their money somewhere else. And due to the COVID, thankfully everyone knows how to use computers, how to navigate and how to do services online. So the accessibility on digital is as important as ever. Physical accessibility. Southampton is a tourist town, and you get shipyards, and you get the big carnival here, and global center essentially for tourism. A lot of the customers are old. When they come here and your buildings are not accessible, the sites are not accessible, you won't get many footfall on them. So making the city accessible, it must be a priority for our city of culture. And how we can do that is it's not going to be very costly, but you need to look at this holistically. Why and how do we do it? And there are lots of people out of work who would be perfect to help to do that. So I took a project recently and used a Kickstart scheme. I've been hunting around for high-functioning autistic people to help to do some of the documentations that online, which are inaccessible, has to be accessible both for NHS or councils. Make them accessible. Minimum training. I've got 10 of them, and they're now doing it for one council. And they're doing it for £1.30 a page. If they outsource it to India, it will cost more. So we've got out-of-work autistic people getting a living wage, doing their job, so the council can fulfill the legal obligation. We can do that to every student leaving university. How many students do you know in a medical profession are failing their exams because of the exams are so badly done? So if you're neurodiverse, they can't pass. A friend of mine is an ENT consultant. She said, we are short of staff right now because nobody's applying for these consultancy roles. A lot of our students are failing in the surgical exams because they're dyslexic. And yet nothing is done about it. So we have nurses who are dropping out of the profession. We can't afford to lose doctors and nurses. They're dropping out because of stress, anxiety, because they have dyslexia, and their exams, their work is not very friendly. So overall, we have such a huge opportunity to get these people back to work, keep them at work. And we know it works because we've been doing it for several years. We know companies who do this properly, they reduce their absenteeism by 80%. So for every pound they spend, they're recouping £6 to £10 actually in savings. Recruitment, retention, productivity, and obviously absenteeism reduction. So my real message here is the city council and the city has to take this seriously. It's not a fringe activity. It has to be done. It has to be programmed, funded, so that you can actually recoup the money elsewhere. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Okay, are we ready to go to Daniel?
Yes, we are. So first of all, let me apologise for not being with you in person. I'm beginning to realise that this hybrid working is a bit complex as everybody else is meeting live and I'm on a screen. So real apologies, but I had an interview right over the other side of town. Well, sorry, the other side of town. Sorry, the other side of the country in Ashford. So that's where I am at the moment. So I'm going to share screen a little bit and talk a little bit about my organisation, Emergency Exit Arts, and a little bit about myself, and then try and provoke some thoughts. So let me try and see if this works. And I think as soon as I press this button, I can't see the screen anymore, but hopefully you'll now see something that doesn't look like me. Oh, actually, I can see me and you. Great. So I'm going to show you a few pictures. We're an outdoor arts organisation based in London, but we work all over the country. This is a picture of a light poem that we created during lockdown, which has toured the whole country, trying to express how people feel coming out of lockdown. And if I talk about my journey, I was, and I think at the point of the one point I'm going to try and make during this is around that I don't really like the term creative career, because I think that everybody's creative in different ways, and it isn't, people get a little bit confused as to what creativity is. So I did a business studies degree, which I absolutely hated. Because it was trying to channel you to when you work for IBM and when you work for a big organization. But I put things on, which I love doing. And I then put things on in Tokyo, putting on club nights. And then I worked for the Body Shop. I followed the gentleman's advice. I wrote to a company that I absolutely loved and got a job with them. And I put things on for them. It just happened to be shops. So I would put shops on in different countries. And then I ran away and joined a carnival troupe. So I put carnivals on. And then I joined Arts Council England. So I funded others to put things on. And now I work for Emergency Exit Arts. So I oversee others putting things on. And, putting things on is or project management or producing. It's got lots of different names. The kind of things that we put on. So we're a charity with $1 million turnover, trying to enhance places, enable people, and astonishing audiences. So we're working more and more in communities, in a way, trying to do community development. We put processions on. We take great big mechanical puppets and to different events. And I want to show you these because it shows the whole range of careers and opportunities that we give to people. We do large outdoor scale shows. We love using fire. So we've just finished a big event in Medway for a big light night event there. We love putting on fireworks, although that side of things has disappeared a bit. Big site-specific events. More and more in high streets, and I can talk a bit about more of this. We're working with Gosport at the moment to try and see how we can enliven the high street and get more people back to it. So that's a big focus of our work at the moment. We do site decor, all sorts of community events. We've just done a big event in Medway, as I mentioned, using light to transform Rochester. That's more images from that event. We did a big event in Coventry this year, welcoming a puppet called Amal, which represented unaccompanied minors. And we do lots of work training people to come into this area of work or other areas of work. And I think what I'm going to do is now stop sharing so that you can see me a bit better. And I think in terms of the training and the skills that we try and give people and what we look for, so when we're working all across the country, often in underserved communities, what we find there is a lack of, and that is freelance practitioners. And that having the flexibility of people who have flexibility over their time, and what we do in terms of training producers is training people to put things on, but also opening the door to freelance work, which is a very tricky path for people to follow because it's slightly uncertain. But there are ways to do it, and there are advantages to do it. And that was certainly my route into the cultural sector, was by being freelance. And I think it's beginning to be better understood by governments. I think the pandemic strangely has helped because so many freelancers have been left behind and haven't been able to prove what they do. So they've had to potentially, get other jobs before they can go back to freelance, certainly in our industry. So that was the main point I wanted to make. And there's all sorts of problems around that, both in terms of skills and in terms of the uncertainty that sometimes freelance work can bring, and therefore who can be brave enough to go freelance. So I think that's what I wanted to say, and again, apologies that I can't be there in person.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Okay. A huge thanks to all our speakers. Very conscious of time, and I'm sure there's plenty of questions that you've got, but I want to ask some as well. The first question I want to ask, and then we can open it to the floor, and there may be online questions as well, is we've heard a lot about success, frankly, here. We've heard a lot of achievement and attainment at various costs. And we also heard this morning we're talking about a sector that seems to constantly underestimate itself, an industry thriving with ideas, job growth, skills gaps, significant economic footprint. So, in the opinion of our speakers, why is it so difficult to engage these pathways or these careers? Why is access such a challenge? But I'm going to limit you to just one thing that you regard as a priority area that is difficult. And I'm going to start with James.
Tricky question. From my perspective, in the world of marketing, social content, and general entertainment, it's justifying return on investment for certain activities that seem more creative. The pandemic's changed a lot in terms of our attitudes and everything like that towards it, but sometimes putting money into the creative sector, from especially justifying it to multiple stakeholders, you have to work that extra bit harder to go, this creative piece of work is worth doing, even if it does not bring an immediate return, because the life cycles of how creativeness can go, especially online, they last a lot longer than just does that bit make me that bit and equal me money. So it's about that balance between commercial success and creative idealism, especially when you're younger, because freelancing, you have to go, will this make me money? Always. It's always the question that comes around.
Thank you. Let's go to Daniel while we've still got you online. Daniel, why do you think the pathways to access and enabling careers is regarded as so challenging?
Again, I think there's this confusion between creativity and arts and culture and other elements of our industry. But I think that, for me, it's education is the barrier. We still seem to have a knowledge-based education system rather than a skills-based education system. and actually you can teach people to be creative. And that creativity, what I mean by that is how you generate valuable ideas. And that's useful in science, it's useful in medicine, it's useful in every single job, because new ideas have a currency. And I think that one can teach those skills, and it's nothing to do with the arts.
Okay, thank you. Nasser, you talked eloquently about barriers. What about this idea of pathways to create?
Actually, those barriers could be potential, because creativity is the thing for neurodiverse people. What they don't have is enough motivation, enough encouragement, and they don't have the inspiration because they don't think there's money in the creative industry. You can change that by giving them confidence, building confidence in people who are failing in maths and English, where their parents could be pushing them, you should be doing engineering or to become go into finance because there's money in it. Many 16-year-olds don't come out of school saying, I'm going to be a creative artist. They just get in there by accident. So yes, education, I agree, 100%. The teachers should nurture talent, encourage people to go into what they're good at, and actually give them the platform to be able to display that talent. We just don't get that. So yeah, that's where we start. Actually make the creative industry rather appealing by showing good examples of what we've managed to achieve. Get role models who actually have achieved, and then they now recognize that they are either dyslexic or they have on the spectrum. They don't know it themselves. Most people don't realize that until it's too late down the line.
Okay, thank you. So.
For me, it's about commitment and resource. We're talking about human beings. So as well as an economical benefit, we have emotional resilience, and there's a different side that I think sometimes is not understood, that if you go through a vulnerable journey in the arts or you want to try something new, that safe space of where you explore vulnerability is terrifying. And I think there's, alongside the economic benefits, exactly what we're saying here about education, there's also about life skills and resiliency, and we need to support people to go beyond their limits so that they go, actually, I can go a bit further. And then that's when the engagement comes in, and that's when people think, actually, I'll go for that role even though I can't. I'll send that golden ticket. I've done the same. It's the confidence, I think, but it takes time, and if we want quick returns, it's not that fast.
Fantastic. Can we take questions online first? You're all very lovely, but let's see what our colleagues online have got to ask.
Can I ask you one from online, from Grace Burton? She's asking, do you have any advice or tips for people in their early careers to make those first connections as they build their network and reputation?
So, advice or tips? James.
Happy to go on this. LinkedIn. If you don't have a LinkedIn or it's not fully optimized, stop what you're doing right now and go do it. It's one of the most valuable tools. People are in the mindset to help, encourage and progress. When you're doing stuff like that, you can have access to people you would have never got access to before. On LinkedIn, the people I've got to agree to be on our podcast, for instance, just from asking them on there is ridiculous. The mentors I've found on there who run agencies 10 times the size of mine, again, ridiculous, and sometimes I didn't even know how big they were when I messaged them. So, it's shooting your shot constantly on there. So make sure it's fully optimized. Don't treat it like you used to treat Facebook. Make sure you add anyone in the general vicinity and see what content they bring out, and you can engage in that and see what's going on in the community. So you are not blind to the happenings of the community, because until you hop in it and see it, you're blind to what's going on. That, like, you could not know about this event today, for instance, if you're not following the right people on LinkedIn, because of the way algorithms work. They'll prioritize the stuff that isn't as important, for their actual progression sometimes. So yes, online LinkedIn, and put yourself in the position to be successful. Like, go to a fancy hotel and work there at, like, coffee shop style, because you might run into a VIP you could learn something from. I think it's said in a lot of successful talks. So just put yourself in places where people that you want to learn from are going in and out. Get as close to the sun as you can, and you'll get the network you need.
A very practical bit of advice there. We'll stick with just that one. Shall we take one more from online, and then we'll open it to the floor? If there isn't any others from online, okay, we'll open it to the floor then. Any questions from yourselves for our incredible panel? Yes.
Hi, Sarah Hall from Solent'S LEP. I had to think about that, only started last week. So following on from that question, I've worked with lots and lots of startups who are in this creative space, but really struggle to get themselves out there. And it's a skill set that they don't necessarily have because they're creatives, they just want to be painting or making music or dancing or whatever it is they're doing. So actually sitting down at a laptop and marketing themselves is incredibly difficult. So what support is there out there for them to actually look at themselves as a business rather than just someone who's doing something that they love?
I've always advised youngsters who come with these ideas that I want to go and be a freelance, do this. I say, well, get a job in a company, maybe entry-level job. Learn what they do, how they do it, what mistakes they've made, so you don't make them. Make connections and impress the employer. Don't go with a job that you think is not good enough for you. Go for something that is definitely well below your skill set, because then you can impress much quicker. Once you make your way up the ladder, then you say, well, I've learned enough to go and do my own thing. Don't do that the other way around. Don't think that I've got the skill and people want it. It's not that easy. You've got to get noticed, and the way you do that is to work for someone and then make your way up that ladder and then come out.
Fantastic. Any other questions?
I've got an
Do you want
answer.
to- Yes, okay.
Yeah. I think it's two-sided for me. I think early on when I decided to leave a really well-paid job and start Zoologic, I created space for myself. So I saved pots of money and I worked my butt off so that I levered space and time, because that's the thing that allows you to understand where your gaps are. And then I did LinkedIn, but in the day when it was present. So I needed to save the money for the car and the bus and the train. And because again, there are no funds that help us start up. So I think that's one way. But the other side is I would love to just do the favourite parts of my job every day. But actually in our sector, it's not a reality. I spend a lot of my time at a laptop on a spreadsheet. And I think that it's okay to say you're not going to have it all. And I think if we sent people out, we'd send people out with a disservice if we didn't say, you do need to learn these things. But I remember I didn't know how to use a spreadsheet. Gap in knowledge. Help. Does anyone know how to use a spreadsheet? So it's like the little chip away at your own skills, and only you know that, really. So.
And just another practical add-on as well, for those who need to learn marketing, I know I mentioned it slightly in the beginning, but HubSpot do a whole bunch of courses that you can jump on completely for free that give you an official certification at the end. So marketing, content marketing, social media, those are 3 separate certifications you can get. Google Skillshop, they'll teach you how to use everything, general digital marketing landscape, but then also all of the different platforms, so YouTube ads, Google ads, search, all those kind of different things. So you can learn those practical marketing elements, but then just also learn from creators and learn from successful businesses to put yourself out there constantly, because otherwise I think a lot of people aren't up to date with the realities of how long it takes to get an audience that will bring you inbound marketing, they call it, stuff that comes to you instead of you going out to find it. It took us over a year and 2 months, I'd say, to get reliable leads coming through to us, and that's constantly making podcasts, TikToks, graphics, pictures of ourselves, updating the journey. It takes a long time to earn it online, and it is possible online. Once you've done it, it doesn't stop. That tap is now running, as long as you keep up to date with your audience. So garner an audience, use those practical tools, which are all free, by the way, and there are some paid ones as well, and yet leverage people as much as possible. As you said, Zoe, if you don't know something, put your hand up and say, I don't know it, and that's why LinkedIn's amazing for that. So try those websites also.
Fantastic, thank you. Well, we are just about out of time there, so huge thank you to our...
Really sorry, can I have one more question?
Yes, indeed, we can have one more question.
Sorry. It's from Charles Freeman, and he's asking what can be done to make pathways safer, particularly for neurodiverse people, for minority communities, and people who find it hard to afford the risk of going freelance.
That's a really good question. And as I said, the safe option is to go to an area where you know there is a problem and you can fix it. Apply for a job in a company that is looking for somebody in that space, regardless of what salary, what position. Get the job. Apply those tools to demonstrate how good you are in doing things others can't do. Goes back to what James was saying. There are lots of free tools available. That's actually as bad as not having tools, because people are overburdened with lots of ideas and tools. They don't know how to apply them. So become that expert in that particular area that everybody's having the pain with. Then you will find yourself a very good way into an organization make yourself the contacts you want, the experience you want, collect some money and put it, for when you go freelance. Then when you go freelance, you've got all you need, both learned experiences as well as the funding.
Yeah, there's, just to add on to that slightly, I think from an educational point of view as well, like I said earlier, sometimes you don't get to get the entire breadth of what your industry can look like when you're just graduating or if you're in A-levels or whichever. And bit of a weird one, but especially when you come from a black background or anything else, my dad had to sit down with me and have the talk, and it's not the talk everyone else is thinking, it's the we are going to be looked at differently to how some of your other white friends might be looked at in a workplace or in anything else. You need to realize that we have to overcome prejudice with excellence, and you almost need to have that same conversation with different people regarding their different backgrounds in university. So the same way a speaker would come in and say this is how the industry is, then you need to go on to a point and go, right, like for neurodiverse crowd, I've got a job and I have ADHD, I've got a job and I have high level autism, stuff like that. Here's how the reality is for me, here's how it might be for you, here's how I overcame it, and have people who have been there, done that, tell the stories to the people who are exactly the same. You need to hear it from the people who have that lived experience, otherwise sometimes it doesn't sink in. So just have those people come in early days and go, look, your reality will look slightly different, but you can still get there because I did, let's get there together. And if you need me, I'm here as a support network, just to add that extra level of safety, so it isn't just, here's the online tools and run. Sometimes the people that have been there, done that, need to come down and really talk more in schools and unis.
Just final comment, personal experience. My daughter, she's doing a course in London. She's got ADHD, well, she's recognized recently as having ADHD. She always lacked the confidence, I'm not good at this, I'm not going to do well. She's actually on the first class at this, and this is her final year. She spent 3 days, did the 3D for Dua Lipa and Elton John video. It's got 200 million viewers, and she did that in 3 days. She got £1,700, and even then she doesn't believe she's good enough. So a lot of these people lack the confidence about themselves. It's the parents, it's the teacher's job to tell them you can do it. My daughter was nearly told to drop her maths because she performed badly in the first term, and the teacher told her, I think you should do something else. And I said, this shouldn't be coming from a teacher. You should be encouraging her to do more. Yet she got a star at the end of the year because she changed the teacher, not the course. So she's now doing architecture and engineering, which is a combined course in UCL, which is the best university in the world for someone who felt she's not good enough.
Right. Thank you very much. It's a great question to end on, tackling these ideas of kind of pathways and barriers to engagement and so on. And it just to conclude, there's an emerging theme in this about the Brecht's hammer. I can't get that out of my head. Heard it at the keynote. Fraser mentioned it when he was chairing his panel. And again, from this, even that final question is all about how we've got to make these interventions to shape the culture and not just be subject to it, but make those interventions. So please put your hands together for a fantastic panel.